Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. He is Commander Cockings.
Oh, the tone, Stuart. Is this a wake? As here's Captain Foley. There's a tone here. I don't know.
I mean, is it sad news? Is it? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to take this. I'm kind of a little upset, if I'm honest, because it's something that we've talked about for years now.
Well, it's funny how often announcements can happen with people saying stuff to the side of other things. So as part of a more larger corporate announcement or discussion piece with Paramount and the new people, etc., they mentioned new things going forward and the fact they are wanting to reset the Star Trek brand a little bit in what was currently being under production with the old version of the company, and then moving forward, and then it's one of the biggest brands, and you can make a lot of money with Trek. How they've officially closed the book on the Kelvin timeline. There's no longer active production on any of the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 Star Trek 4s. I think 5 have been announced over the years. I'm not kidding, with 5 directors. Officially closed the book, and now moving forward. Now, not to say they couldn't do some more JJ in the future, but to say they've stopped any active development and pursuing of that is a big moment. And you could title this The Death of the Kelvin Timeline, or not. What do you think?
See, that's the thing. We've had so many announcements of an upcoming Star Trek 4 over the years, and it got to the point where it's like, I'll believe it when I'm sitting in the theater with the popcorn watching it, because nothing ever solidified. And I was actually kind of looking forward to a fourth one, because Beyond, the last one they did, was by far their best one. And I didn't mind that they had waited so long, and maybe we'll get another one because we go to the Monster Maroon era. You can age them up a bit. Like, that would have been beautiful. So I'm just kind of upset a little bit, as much as I wasn't a big fan of 2009 and Into Darkness. But yeah, I think it might be a good financial decision that they did that, but it surprised me personally.
Well, I was going to mention something else, but since it's financial, I mean, since then, Chris Pine has continued to go from strength to strength. Everyone else has done various parts, big or small. So just the budget to get the cast, which I know has been a big problem for them, just to get the cast to sign on is going to be, what, like 80, 90 million just for cast budget? Just to get the leads, and you can't do a Trek film without Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, etc. So any film, you're looking at 300 million for a very low budget version of the film, and that's not gonna, so you're looking at 400, 500 million, which means you've got to make 800, 900 million to be profitable. Oh no, you can't do that. Whereas even the original actors, I'm sure they weren't charging anywhere near as much because they were famous for their roles, but they weren't famous necessarily. Walter and George, like, they weren't charging outside of, you know so those films could stay in a certain budget range, and that's fair. If they could make the film on such as, if every actor could take a 50% pay cut, then maybe, but they're not worth that. As in, they've built their careers to not need that. That's why you hire unknowns or young people or whatever. Because I'm be honest, if you can pay the entire cast 10 million for the entire main cast, guess what? You can make a film for 120 million and make a huge profit. But you can't do it if you bring back these people. So that's obviously the biggest problem. Just the fundamental getting on the page moment, and I would assume that if they were going JoJo mindset, they'd want to make it bigger than the last few, which means in theory bigger special effects. What's the set piece that costs you 20 million to make, right? How big do you want the sets to be? Like, they are not the sort of group to go smaller, more characterful, and that's a big problem, right? That's not what JoJo verse is. It's big, explosive, silly, and over the top, which costs.
And honestly, the loss of Anton Yelchin, I'm kind of glad they're not doing another one in that regard. Like, I wouldn't want him recast, but it would be easy to explain Chekhov not being there as well. I don't know. How do you feel about it? Are you upset about it at all, or are you just kind of like, eh?
Well, it hasn't been relevant since the early days of Trekyards, and there's been 100, 200 episodes of Trek since, of varying quality, and it's kind of like the JJ films went on the reverse Matrix line, as in Matrix, the first one's incredible, and it got not necessarily worse, but like less good as it went on, and then Trek did the opposite. Started very poorly, continued to be very poorly, and then the third one's really good for itself, right? Not necessarily, it's in the top 15 Trek films, top 30. Yeah. Like, but that's because the team wasn't involved as much. A different team was taking over. So if you're saying percentage-wise, do I enjoy JJ films? Of course not. 2/3 are not good. So if the chance of them making a fourth one and it'd be close to the first two, just percentage-wise more likely, and I do not want them to waste money on something that bad, right? However, if it was the Beyond team returning, I would therefore be excited because that is a team that I can see going well. So the line of excitement was specific, you know. So I'm sad. That said, I kind of don't know why they don't do this. Why they don't commission a Captain Sulu JJ film, because every one of the leads is a famous actor. So Captain Sulu, Rathacon era, Rathacon style, whatever. You have Zachary as a guest star, so he charges less. No Kirk, no, so you still use a property, and it can be a 300 million film easy, maybe even 250, right? That would interest me. So it's still Kelvin timeline, but like you said, everyone's aged up, works beautifully. But you don't. I do not need to see more Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. I've had 5 seasons. I will have had 5 seasons of Kirk, Spock, and in essence from Stranger Worlds. Like Shatner's still the best. Whereas I would see Captain Sulu, or even
Yeah. I just found it kind of odd that they decided to just throw it out, because you still got the comics, you still got the possibility of spin-off stuff like that. So I don't know if they're really scrapping it, because like I said, there's comics, there's licensing stuff that they can still potentially make money off of. So I don't know how the announcement affects that kind of stuff, or if it's just for the movies. And I think it'll even come back maybe in like 10 years, maybe. Who knows? It's now that it exists, it'll be back in some form, right?
Oh, it's so funny you said that, because about making money, they've had the metrics for the last decade. So they know very well if the comics are selling.
It's true.
Like they've seen the numbers.
The comics were pretty good. I enjoyed some of the comics that I saw. Like those are good stories.
But I would assume they're all barely breaking even kind of thing, and that because everything costs, right? If the comic markets aren't that giant anyway, considering the larger scope. There's a slew of video games back in the day, and there's not been anything new. Focus on the more prime stuff, and they had loads of figures and all that stuff hasn't really continued in any meaningful way past, which doesn't make sense necessarily to keep going after a film's finished, but Trek has a way of continuing. There's always more TOS merch announced, there's always more TNG merch, right? These things are always being announced. That said, XO6 just announced their Beyond Spock, Beyond Spock from Quinto, although that's because the guy that runs EXO was on like a plane with Zachary and got to know him and promised him like 6, 7, 8 years ago they'll do one of him. So that was like a very much a personal thing for him. Yeah, which is lovely. But he's I think admitted online it's not going to sell like amazing, but I need to do this because I promised, whatever. So I'm thinking they've probably seen the metrics and the merch isn't selling like good, and I'm sure the TOS to that is like night and day. And so without reinventing the wheel, like it's smarter and safer to go a new direction and get a new thing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to just abandon the universe, because you could do anything you want with it. But they've done so much damage, and certainly branding wise, do you want to say Kelvin timeline movie, or just want to say a new Star Trek movie and just start fresh with that baggage, right?
Well, that being said, I don't want to start fresh like the origin story movie that they wanted to do either. Like, I'd rather see another Kelvin film than a friggin' origin film.
Well, that for me would be the definition of not starting fresh. That's just recycling. Fresh would be just a random ship in a random universe with a random captain. Like I think we've got with this new Ryan Gosling Star Wars film. It's just some guy in the Star Wars universe. Great. Have the USS Acapello, and it's a right. Like do something new. That's how Voyager. Voyager became a Titan DS9 because they were a new ship, a new crew that's interesting, with a good cast. And while Trek is not known for star power, Tom Hardy was not Tom Hardy yet, right? And every villain of Trek wasn't a big name actor. They were known but not big name in the same way, right? So you could bring like a Reese Witherspoon in to play the captain and be like, oh damn, like you could do a star power version. But the films with Tom Cruise, ironically, are not. This film is a film with character Dylan Jayan. It's a Tom Cruise film. He's playing. So that star power has a problem as well. But it could be interesting, like the Ryan Gosling, pick one hero, one villain. Could be interesting.
So if you bring in a Reese Witherspoon, would it be called Logically Blonde?
Would she be a good Vulcan though?
No. Her first officer.
Okay. Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
just,
I'd watch that. And just redo the entire film Legally Blonde in the Trek universe. And Reese is helping to produce it. Just scene for scene, swap it out. Like you watch Galaxy Quest, swap it out in your brain, just scene for scene. Yeah.
Yeah. So
should be Orion, wouldn't she? Should be the L being Orion, because then various of the scenes would make sense.
Yeah.
Little puppy dog that's like got spikes. And it's so cute and just yeah. Orions have to be in as well.
Just make it a moopy. Makes it a moopsie.
Well, especially bred moopsie, because pugs are, like especially bred want to be less, murderous, less cute, but less murderous. Yeah, so I'm mid, Stuart, because it hasn't been relevant in a decade, and it was a great one to go out on. And we interviewed Sean Hargraves, and we felt connected to the production in some way, and they fixed the uniforms, and everyone did a good job for the most part, and. Right, it was a great one to end on. It was not a wet fart like Generations as the end of Kirk is what I mean, and then Nemesis for as the end of something. It was a good end of something.
Well, it was a good beginning of something. We got the Enterprise A at the end, which was a better design, and we see it zipping through the credits, and we're like, okay, we're gonna see more of this shit. No, it's disappointing. So I am both about it, and I'm also kind of disappointed. I wouldn't say I'm happy about it at all.
No, I wouldn't say that.
But I'm very, very kind of... I'm a little disappointed because I was really looking forward to them going into the Monster Maroon era and seeing what that looked like in their version. I think that'd be kind of cool. So,
but you've got to assume abstractly that if they've failed to make a film in 10 years with various scripts and you're paying people to write them, so you're losing tens of thousands on so many writers, and you sign a director, in theory they might get a sign-on bonus, to lock you down until you start filming. So they've probably invested tens of millions over the decade on various versions of the script. So there's been a reason they've all not happened, a real reason to take those losses and to have, let's be honest, the bad press of a project not happening. Right? There's a reason why something's not worked. The lack of creative spark or the something, right? Whereas other films can just get commissioned and boom and go, and there you go. There's some reason. I wonder if it's just the universe of the Kelvin timeline is just kind of a weird one to sell and to work with, and the budgets, and it's all expectations, reality, actors. It all just doesn't make it viable. Because Beyond, if you recall, was it had a director and then they left and they hired the other chap, and they said, write the script in a month, and we're filming in 2 months. It was an absurd turnaround, so they had to write it within a budget scale more so, and it was we're already going, set's being built somehow. You're doing this in 2 weeks, write the script, so they had to do it a certain way. You couldn't do that now, obviously. Yeah, so there's probably some reason why. But would you have if I'd pitched you a Star Trek 4, and I guess lose some other show at Paramount, or a Captain Sulu movie, lower the budget, of course, it's just him, maybe bring one other legacy, would that have been, rather than abandon it, give us a Captain Sulu film with him leading it?
That's a weird one for me, because I think for Trek fans, absolutely that would be a way to go, but for a general audience, which is what they're probably going for, which was what they did with the Kelvin films, that would be not very good. I don't think people would... Captain Sulu, oh, I'm so excited. Whereas Trek fans would be like, that'll be kind of cool. Let's go check that out. And again, I don't think there's a huge rush to want to go see that, even with Trek fans. So, yeah. I
mean, John Cho is a likable actor that he's got...
Yeah, he is.
I wouldn't say he's a cinema draw, but people are like, oh, yeah, I know him. And if he looks good in a uniform, if it's Excelsior, if you bring back, like I said, Quinto, so you got Spock, you bring back...
Yeah, but when I see him as the leading man, I'm thinking either romantic comedy or just comedy.
Yeah, I know.
So that doesn't steer the ship quite right,
But he was good in those films, as little as he was in them. He did, and I don't know if you would have seen George Takei as a leading man either from TOS into 6, right? He was a good officer, but he wasn't. But he obviously did. So I wouldn't put him down on that. But if the budget is only going to be 120 million, and it's about a really good sci-fi story, and that's in the trailer, and therefore it wouldn't matter who the captain was. It's just a good-looking sci-fi film. So that would be the general audience that I'll go see a fun sci-fi film, and then the Trekkies will go and see it because it's Sulu and Spock and I don't know, throw in someone else, right? Just you know, maybe they're going I know Karen Mark is already in those. Savick or Valeris, you know, just like they're in it because they can be, but just to kind of give some extra spice, you know.
Yeah, I don't think a producer would ever take a gamble on that. That's just too much of a specific audience you're looking for.
But doesn't that then show the flaw? Then you can't make a Star Trek film without the biggest draw. Either TNG made like that means they can't really do a film with a random crew. It's just going to lose money. So they have to make a TNG reboot, JJ or nothing, and that's just a waste of everyone's time, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree, but that's the fallacy. Unfortunately, people know Enterprise and Picard and Enterprise and Kirk. So if that's not in the movie, people are going to be like, it's too niche for me. I don't want to watch it. Whereas Trek fans will be like, hey, that's kind of cool. I might go check that out. Might being the key word there. Now, if it's a streaming movie made for Paramount Plus, that's a little bit different. That's very niche, like Section 31 was, which bombed horribly. Shouldn't have been made. But, you know, a Kelvin film, I think there's enough Kelvin fans out there that I think it would do way better than Section 31 did. Like, let's be honest. But I don't think big screen, I don't think that would work. That's just my personal thought.
Yeah, but if you made it like Star Trek 2, you know, one Federation ship plays two roles, only one named actor really, maybe with a guest, you could make it for under 100, and then you could definitely get like if that wouldn't get 100 million or 200 million in the box office, then Trek fans just don't want to see Star Trek movies. That's a fun like that. If you can't get 200 million worth of Star Trek fans to the cinema, the franchise is dead, because that is a very low bar. Because surely fans will just watch any Trek movie. Like a lot of fans will.
They don't make movies for Star Trek fans.
But if it's 200 million, if they need that, it could be, because the budget to ratio, as long as they make double the money, that's all they need, right?
Yeah, but they're not going to do that. They tend not to do. I don't know.
Well, that's why it's not been made. But I'm saying if they were, you know, they could.
I think it's a shocking thing for them to do, to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and say there's nothing going forward with the Kelvin timeline. Like I said, there's so many spin-off things you can do, and which I'm sure they're still going to do. I don't know if the announcement they made specifically indicated that they're not doing anything.
It's
Kelvin.
just films.
Okay.
Because let's be honest, the head of Paramount isn't thinking about the comics, right? That cost them a few million to make. They're not thinking that, right? Which is fine. That you know, and they obviously own the license to all that stuff. They're not going to not use Chris Pine's likeness to make some money, right? But it's also brave of them, because you don't often was the Rian Johnson Star Wars trilogy cancelled or just never talked about again, right? But at least they've officially as it can be, they've cancelled it, which at least means we know some sort of closure, and then, you know, and at least it shows they are thinking real, like what will make money, what will fans want, because most fans, like 51%, would not want a Kelvin 4 over something Prime. Most 51%. So that is already a worse position to be in financially. So going at least Prime, standard format Trek, you now appeal to most Trek fans, and then if you make it more user friendly around that, not that, you know, Star Trek 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 were made for general audiences, any of them. So, you know, none of them were. Maybe 4 was, but apart from that, none of the audience members. So it's good they're thinking next, but the worst thing you could do is make another reboot, like just of the world, not necessarily Kirk, Spock, McCoy, just a generic Trek film, which is like fresh, brand new, modern, hyper advanced, like properly general audience, like no Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, just sci-fi, right? The most broad audience possible, you know. It's like, I'd rather just see a movie about people and things I know in a good way with a good story.
Just make a movie without Star Trek in the title. Just have the tagline as the movie title, and so nobody knows it's Star Trek going in.
That would be great French fries. They went so bad they put it back in the title.
Yeah. Anyway, let us know your thoughts. Yeah. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section about this. Are you a Kelvin fan? Is it upsetting to you? Let us know. We want to hear from you guys. And by all means, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're notified so you don't miss any edited content like this, or lives where we can talk about this with you directly. So come and join us.
And if you want to support what we do here, we do all the time. We cover cool things, new Trek, old Trek, our Trek, all the different things. Support us on Patreon if you can. It is monthly and all absolutely helps what we do here. Or join the channel on YouTube. Yep. Or super chat during a live, do many, or super thanks on any video, including this one. Or PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com. Everything helps. Let's just do what we do and keep bringing good stuff to you.
That's right. So until next time, he is Commander Cockings.
He's Foley.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.